There's just one question left to explore. What small step will you take today to honor your why? Because that next step, even if it seems tiny, might be the one that turns everything around. Change rarely arrives like thunder. More often, it whispers, quiet, slow, persistent. That's how my story continued. Not with a big win or a lucky break, but with a quiet morning and a simple decision. I started waking up at 6 a.m., not because I suddenly became a morning person, but because I needed to feel like I was in control of at least one thing in my life. That first morning, I sat in my tiny room with nothing but silence, a cup of coffee, and an old book, Atomic Habits. I didn't read the whole thing, just one page. But on that page, I found something powerful. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That line didn't just make sense. It hit me. I realized I didn't need to completely change my life overnight. I just needed better habits, better systems, a better rhythm. So I kept going. The next day, I read another page, then another. Eventually, I added something else, learning 5 English words each day. Just 5. I kept a small notebook and wrote them down. Some days I learned 10, some days only 3. But I kept showing up. Day by day, I began journaling too. At first, it was awkward. I didn't know what to write. I woke up early. I feel tired but proud. That's how it started. Then the words began to flow. My journal became a place where I met my real self. I wrote down fears, goals, questions, and little by little, the fog in my mind started to clear. One night, while scrolling through YouTube, I came across Simon Sinek's TED Talk. Start with why. He said, working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. I paused the video and just sat there, staring at the screen. I thought about my sister's question, the one she asked weeks before. Do you think I can study abroad one day? I remember the look in her eyes, half hope, half doubt, and I knew right then, my why was real. I wanted to be the kind of person who could help her believe in that dream. I wanted to be able to say, yes, you can, and mean it. That purpose lit a fire in me that coffee never could. With that fire, I started applying internships in areas I'd never considered. Marketing, teaching, writing, digital media. Most of them turned me down, politely, but a few said yes. And with each yes, something inside me grew stronger. Not pride, but belief. Here's what I learned. Transformation doesn't arrive with drum rolls. It sneaks in quietly, disguised as a new routine, a single page, 5 new words, a tiny act of courage. The days I didn't feel like showing up were often the most important, because every time I chose to keep going, I built a part of myself that was stronger than doubt. Looking back, I didn't become a new person overnight. I became better one tiny decision at a time. The kind of better that nobody notices at first. But eventually, those invisible steps add up to something real, something unshakable. So now, I'll ask you again, what is one small thing you can do today that your future self will thank you for? Maybe it's opening a book. Maybe it's writing down a dream. Maybe it's simply deciding that today you will begin. That first step won't feel magical. It may even feel awkward or boring. But that's okay, because real magic isn't loud. It grows in silence, in routine, in the inches you move forward when no one's watching. And if you keep going, you'll reach a point where something unexpected happens. One morning, you'll wake up, look around, and realize your life has quietly, beautifully changed. And maybe, just maybe, that next step is waiting for you right now. It happened on a quiet Thursday evening, one of those nights that feels ordinary, yet changes everything. I was in the kitchen making tea when my younger brother came in. He's 14, full of questions and quiet dreams he's still too shy to say out loud. He watched me for a moment, then asked a question that stopped me in my tracks. Do you think I could go to university in the States someday? He didn't ask it like he expected a real answer. It was soft, almost like he was testing the words out loud for the first time. But I heard something deeper behind his question, a small spark of fragile hope. I looked at him, and in that moment, I didn't just see a teenager with a question. I saw my younger self. I saw a version of me that once dreamed big, but didn't have someone to guide him. Someone to say, yes, it's possible, and here's how we make it real. That night, something changed inside me. I had been waking up early, reading, learning, trying to grow. But until then, I was doing it just to fix myself, to feel a little better, to stop feeling like a failure. I had been focused on surviving, but now I saw more than just a dream. I saw a responsibility to become someone my brother could look up to, someone whose actions spoke louder than words, someone who didn't just say, you can do it, but lived it out loud, someone who made the path a little clearer, a little less scary for him to follow. That night, I wrote a sentence in my journal. I want to become someone my brother can believe in. It became more than a goal. It became my why. Suddenly, my mornings had more meaning. The tiredness didn't feel as heavy. The setbacks didn't sting the same. Because now, I wasn't just showing up for myself. I was showing up for him, for that spark in his voice, for that question he dared to ask. And here's the truth. When your why is strong enough, it pulls you forward. Even on the days you want to quit. Even when no one else believes in you. Even when the progress feels invisible. Your why becomes your compass. It doesn't make everything easy, but it makes it worth it. So let me ask you this. Who's watching you quietly, hoping you'll rise? Who are you becoming? Not just for yourself, but for someone else. Because when your reason to grow becomes bigger than your excuses, that's when everything starts to shift. And maybe that shift is just beginning. They don't tell you this when you start trying to change your life. But growth is not a straight line. It's not a perfect staircase where every step feels like progress. Sometimes you slip. Sometimes you fall so hard it feels like you're right back where you started. About 3 months into my new routine, I hit a wall. At first, it was just one night. I told myself I deserved a break. One episode of The Office turned into 5. Then it was Stranger Things. Then some late-night gaming just to relax. I started sleeping in, skipping my journaling, ignoring texts from friends. I stopped applying for internships. I told myself I was resting, but deep down, I knew I was hiding. Days blurred together. I was up late, but not for anything meaningful. I was tired, but not from hard work. Just empty. It was like I had forgotten why I started. And then came the night that changed everything. It was nearly 1 a.m. I got up to grab a snack from the kitchen. I didn't expect to see anyone, but there he was, my dad. He had just come home from a 12-hour shift at the warehouse. His back was bent, his eyes red from exhaustion. And yet, there he was, kneeling on the floor, fixing a leaking tap. He didn't know I was watching. He wasn't doing it for praise or thanks. He was just doing what needed to be done, quietly, without complaint. I stood there in the hallway, frozen. No one said a word. But in that silence, I felt everything. That moment didn't make me feel ashamed. It made me feel awake. Something broke inside me, but in the best possible way. I realized how much love can live in quiet acts. My dad didn't need to lecture me about wasted time. His actions said everything. This is what it means to show up. This is what it means to be responsible for someone other than yourself. I went back to my room that night and didn't open Netflix. I opened my journal. Sometimes the most powerful turning points come not through words, but through witnessing silent strength, the kind that doesn't shout but speaks directly to your soul. And from that moment on, I knew something deep inside. Falling off track doesn't mean you fail forever. It just means it's time to begin again. Because the road is never easy, but that's what makes a journey meaningful. And so the question remains, are you ready to keep going, even when it gets hard? One afternoon, while watching a motivational video on YouTube, I came across a quote that stopped me cold. It said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." At first, I just nodded, thinking, well, that makes sense. But the more I thought about it, the more it unsettled me. Who were my 5? I sat down, took out a piece of paper, and wrote down the names of the people I spent most of my time with. There they were, my weekend crew. We had shared a lot of laughs, late nights, and stories. But when I looked closely, I saw something else too. We didn't build each other up. We escaped together. Our weekends were full of drinking, gossiping, and complaining about life while doing nothing to change it. We joked about people with big dreams, called them tryhards, and laughed at anything that looked like effort. Deep down, I knew why I stayed. It was comfortable. But I also knew that comfort was costing me my growth. Making a decision wasn't easy. I didn't write a long goodbye. I didn't make a scene. I just stopped showing up. I stopped replying to the group chats. I quietly chose to walk away. Not because I was better than them, but because I finally wanted better for myself. At first, it felt lonely. The silence was loud. But then something unexpected happened. One evening, while searching for free coding resources, I stumbled on a Reddit thread about online study communities. Curious, I clicked a link and joined a Discord server full of people around the world, students, professionals, dreamers, who were learning together. Some were from Canada, others from Australia, a few from the UK. They weren't just studying coding. They shared book recommendations, morning routines, productivity hacks, and life goals. They were strangers, but they spoke the same language of growth. That space became my new environment. Every day, someone would share a small win. Just finished a 30-day streak of learning Python. Or got up at 5 a.m. today and meditated for 10 minutes. At first, I didn't say much. I just watched. But their energy was contagious. Soon, I found myself sharing updates too. I felt encouraged, not judged. I felt inspired, not ridiculed. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I belonged, not to a group that kept me in place, but to a tribe that pulled me forward. That's when I truly understood growth doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when you surround yourself with people who believe in progress. People who reflect who you want to become. So here's a question worth asking. Who are your 5? Are they building you up or holding you back? Because sometimes the most powerful move you can make isn't about trying harder. It's about choosing better company. And that one choice can quietly change everything.